Deputy Minister, thank you so much again for being with us and talking to us in this very important and troubling time. I just wanted to start with the campaign that Czech Republic started a few weeks ago. It is an unprecedented crowdfunding campaign, and we know that the military aid is being supplied to Ukraine as a result of this campaign. As far as I know, a lot of money were collected. Could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and also for having space here to tell a bit more about the campaign. It basically started already during the first day of the invasion, of the attack, of the aggression. I've seen all around myself so many people who were willing and who wanted to help somehow, to contribute, even financially, however they could. And what I first tried to do was to reach some very rich people in the country, because we were preparing for more massive deliveries to Ukraine for months, at least since December last year. Me, as the Deputy Minister of Defense responsible for defense industrial cooperation, I've been cooperating with Ukraine for 7 years, quite intensively in this domain. So I knew exactly what they needed, what they were asking for, and already during the past 5 years, the Czech Republic has been number 2 in the European Union in terms of supplies of military material to Ukraine. So what I did was that I put together with my team everything that was available in stocks of Czech companies in the Czech Republic, so that we have it ready and ready to be shipped immediately. But when I saw the invasion, the war that Russia launched against Ukraine, I figured that we just need to speed up the process really substantially. So when I reached some of the rich people, I figured, this is not only about the big donors, corporate ones, or more like famous people who would like to give something, but everybody wanted to contribute. So we set up a fund, we set up an account at the Ukrainian embassy in Prague, so that all the money that goes in is really in the hands of the Ukrainian government, of the Ukrainian state. And we created a system that shortened the time period for export licensing, for the whole certification process, for deliveries, for logistics, so that it gets there as soon as possible. So what usually takes 40-50 days in terms of licensing documentation, we're now doing in 2 to 3 hours. So we really adjusted everything so that it goes very smoothly, and we started collecting money basically the second day of war on Saturday, and by Sunday we already had around $2 million in the account, and immediately by Sunday night we already started preparing the first contracts of military material that was requested from the Ukrainian side, and we started shipping it the next day. And as it showed the public that we had a mechanism that is solid, that is working, that is fast, it basically brought the public attention to the program on a bigger scale. So people started to donate more and more, and not only from the Czech Republic, but also from abroad, from the United States, from the Baltic countries, from Nordic countries, from Germany. Even though 95% of the donations have been from the Czech Republic, the global outreach of the campaign is substantial, also in terms of the identification of the donors, of small donors, of normal people who can feel that they are part of the struggle of the brave Ukrainian people.
And how do you explain the enthusiasm of the people who contributed so far?
Well, they could imagine easily that, besides contributing to other very essential and very needed funds for humanitarian aid, for medical aid, for sheltering refugees, this is something that the Ukrainian leadership has been asking for with the president's famous quote, I need ammunition, not a right. So this is precisely what we offered people to be part of. So the enthusiasm came from the knowledge that when they send their money to this account, we're immediately buying what the Ukrainians asked in terms of military technologies, in terms of weapons, and we ship it there, and they can fight with the weapons they paid for in days.
And do I understand correctly that the supplies are coming from the Czech producers?
Yes. Even though it's fair, and it's good to say that it's not only produced in the Czech Republic. This is all Soviet-era technologies, and very often the Czech industrialists have a specialty in the maintenance, repairs, overhauls, modernization of the weapon systems that were produced during the Soviet era. So this is basically what happened during the 1990s. 95% of the defense industry in Czechoslovakia and in the Czech Republic was privatized. And what was kept as a knowledge, as a capability of the industry, was this modernization effort based on NATO standards.
Talking about the latest news, we know that this past weekend, Russia hit with a missile strike a military training base very close to the Polish border. And earlier, Moscow emphasized that all military shipments of aid to Ukraine will be considered to be subject of, possible attacks. Will this affect the plans of how the Czech Republic is supplying its military aid to Ukraine?
Absolutely not. Of course, this is another escalation, another level of threats against the alliance, against the Ukrainian people trying to defend themselves. But we don't want to stop. We will not stop. We can't stop. Every single weapon we get there means less children, less women, less men murdered by the Russian military. Every single anti-tank missile means one less tank that is shooting at houses in Ukraine. Every single anti-aircraft weapon means one less bomber that is killing people in hospitals and children in children's hospitals. So, this doesn't affect anything at all for us.
Deputy Minister, are you concerned that the war can spill over the borders of Ukraine? Because we know that the Chief of Staff of the Czech military armed forces just the other day said that the next strategic shock that Europe might be in danger of is a massive military conflict.
It is a scenario that we are preparing for and prepared for. We are not in fear. I mean, we, as an alliance, we have been preparing for this ever since Russia started to escalate during the last months of last year. And of course, the very role of alliance, given Russia's role in the conflict and Russia's direct aggression in Ukraine already 8 years ago, was quite obviously aiming at deterring Russia from going any further. But with the escalation that we're witnessing, with the use of banned chemical weapons such as white phosphor used by the Russian military on civilian population, we just see that every day Russia is crossing another level of what was imaginable several weeks ago. So of course we are preparing, and we are prepared for the next levels of escalation.
We're hearing that the Czech Republic is planning to ramp up its defense capabilities as a response, as you said, to the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Can you say that you fear for your own security, for the security of the Czech Republic in this context?
I would say that fear is not the emotion here. I mean, it's more of a resolve to face evil. We have witnessed evil in Europe 80 years ago almost, in the form of fascism and Nazism. And what the Russian regime is currently presenting is a new form of fascism that is spilling over its borders. So, yeah, this is how we feel about it.
So the next step for the Czech Republic will be massive modernization of its forces. Do we understand correctly?
As well as with most of our allies in NATO, the aggression, the war that Russia is launching, is waging, is a clear signal that we just cannot stay at the speed of our modernization. So it will definitely be increased. And even Germany, the biggest geopolitical turnaround in Europe or in Western Europe in terms of military, with Germany increasing its budget so significantly, with the declaration of adding 100 billion euros to its defense, we just cannot stay behind. So we are really rapidly preparing and planning for a rapid modernization program.
Deputy Minister, it has been reported that about 600 citizens of Czech Republic have requested permission to fight in Ukraine. I just wanted to ask you about the kind of legalities of this process and whether it is something that you have ever seen in the past, whether it is unprecedented, and how does it work under the Czech legislation?
It is quite unprecedented in our history. We have not seen any numbers comparable to these we are witnessing during the past days in any conflict during the past 30 years, wherever in the world. The Czech legislation is quite clear in this. It is a crime. But at the same time, already during the first week of the war, the Prime Minister and the President of the Czech Republic have declared that everyone who will join the Ukrainian forces fighting for their freedom will be pardoned.
Speaking about the Prime Minister, he earlier mentioned in one of the interviews that he didn't think that there is a nuclear threat coming from Russia. He didn't think there would be a nuclear strike on Europe. Does the ministry side with this assessment?
Absolutely. It needs to be clear to the public that no panic should be in place right now. We do not expect nuclear attacks on European cities. At the same time, who is prepared is not surprised.
Deputy Minister, we know that the Czech military have been very actively involved with helping to settle the refugees that are coming to the Republic. We know it's like 200,000 right now, and more people are expected. The Czech Republic asked for modular humanitarian bases that can house thousands of refugees. And there was a talk of like a humanitarian-like crisis possibility. What is your assessment? What is your assessment of the likelihood of this crisis, and how do you think this situation is going to be unfolding? How are you going to be handling that?
This is the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War, and this is the biggest influx, incoming number of refugees to the Czech Republic since centuries. Because after the Second World War, there were actually people of German origin leaving Czechoslovakia. This is absolutely unprecedented in centuries for our country. By today, I already got figures that we are close to 250,000 refugees. More than 55% of them are more than 55% of them are children, and more than 80% of the adult population coming to the Czech Republic are women. The rest is usually elderly men. The Czech Republic, as well as any other country in our proximity, is not prepared for this scale of refugees, obviously, but we are working tirelessly every hour to make every Ukrainian coming to the Czech Republic feel welcome, feel at home. We're trying to work on as a decentralized approach to the accommodation, to the integration into our school system as possible. already by now the Czech television has started to broadcast in Ukrainian language news, as well as programs for children. Czech schools are already now taking in Ukrainian children coming from the war or fleeing from the war. There is this really huge societal consensus on the need that we have to be as kind to the families that are fleeing the war as possible, to accept them amongst ourselves. We have only good experiences with our brothers and sisters from Ukraine, because Ukrainians have been for decades our second biggest minority in the country, even though they've only numbered several dozens of thousands. But I can say that everyone I know has only had good experiences with the working people, good working people of Ukraine coming for work purposes. So now when their country is at war, we just try to support them as much as possible. Most of companies where Ukrainian men were working, for instance, and left for war to fight for the homeland, most of their employers kept sending their salaries to their families, even though they cannot go to work, obviously. So I believe that this is the biggest challenge and biggest opportunity for Czech nation and for our country since decades at least.
Do you expect more support from the European Union? Do you expect this to become a more centralized effort in the coming days?
Yeah, we do expect support in terms of the logistics, in terms of building new housing capabilities. And we hope this will happen. At the same time, we are not just waiting for, say, a centralized European response. Really, we're trying through the regions, through districts, through cities, through villages, to mobilize everyone who can help to accommodate Ukrainians in the Czech Republic, to bring them as part of their families.
Deputy Minister, maybe the last question, it's more on the societal level, but we have been hearing from throughout Europe and from the Czech Republic in particular, the statements from the non-government organizations, from alliances, from politicians as well, and that had to do with the news that the Russian speakers in Czech Republic or being in Czech Republic, in Germany, are being not welcomed, and even the people living there are now experiencing hardship in terms of how they're perceived. Do you see that? Do you experience that? And how do you see this unfolding?
We cannot underestimate these reports, of course. In my experience, very often when there is societal antipathy towards something Russia is doing, it's quite impossible for Czechs to distinguish between Ukrainians and Russians, even in the language, and especially many Ukrainians speak Russian as their mother tongue. So it's nonsense. And now, when you hear Ukrainian or Russian, you automatically think of Ukrainian refugees, because first you can't distinguish, and even if you can, they could be Russian-speaking Ukrainians. So I have not been experiencing this or witnessing this a lot. There have been few incidents as far as I could have been informed. But also, it's important to say this societal level will be a huge target for disinformation campaigns that have already started. The Russian propaganda machine in the Czech Republic has been silent for about a week or week and a half, and it has started to move on. And the target is the refugee wave. Targeting the very concept of welcoming Ukrainians, trying to motivate people, the Czech people, to be jealous of whatever they would be getting as basic requirements for decent living. But also part of this disinformation campaign is focused on alienating the Russian speakers and Russian citizens in the Czech Republic against us in terms of sort of underlining and spreading false information about attacks on Russian citizens, on Russian speakers. We had one incident last week, several days ago. There was widely reported that a mob beat a Russian because he was Russian. And when the police investigated, it turned out it was actually a Russian-speaking citizen of Kazakhstan who was beaten by Russian pro-Putin thugs. But yeah, it's very. This is going to be very hard on a societal level, and it will be very important also for us to, to let everyone feel welcome in our country. And of course, it will be important also for the society not to see protests on the, say, Russian diaspora or Russian minority protesting against Ukrainians who are coming to the country, like we've seen in Berlin. Of course, this is all orchestrated from Moscow, but we need to be aware of this and countering it with our own positive message.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Deputy Minister.